It is Miami Open final time, and it's Karolina Pliskova versus Ashleigh Barty in the women's final, which is starting very soon, which means I actually have a time limit on this video, which I'm sure everyone is pleased about because these live streams, they tend to go on, so we're actually under some time pressure this time, which is helpful. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. I expect that most people are subscribed, but if you're not, then subscribe now because no one ever knows when I'm uploading. So if you subscribe, you will be alerted when I do. Very quickly, very sorry for the lateness of the stream. I've been out all day, just got in, and been very busy over the last couple of days. So I am hoping that this will be decent-ish quality, but those of you who watched my preview and prediction video for the Indian Wells final will probably have high expectations, so go easy on me this time, please, because I'm under pressure from a few different angles. So Ashleigh Barty versus Karolina Pliskova, there's a key reason I wanted to do a preview and prediction for this particular clash. I watched their first ever meeting live courtside in 2016. It was in Nottingham. It was 2 tie breaks, and to this day I say it is one of the best matches I've ever seen live. The variety, the consistency from both players, and judging by their head-to-head to date, it indicates that this is going to be a close and good match today, whether it is straight sets or 3 sets. But let's go straight into analysing and looking at each player, what they've done well so far this tournament, and what we can expect potentially from both of them today. So let's start with the lower ranked player, which is Ashleigh Barty, who is the 11th seed in the tournament. She's ranked number 6 in doubles, so top 10 in doubles, and I believe soon to be top 10 in singles as well. So that's Barty. As usual on the live streams, streaming generally means that I haven't had as much time to plan, therefore I will be looking down at stats to make sure that I'm not spouting an entire load of rubbish. So we have here the path to date for Barty. I was doing some commentary for WTA TV and other various platforms that were showing the matches during the first week of the tournament, and I actually ended up commentating on Barty's first match, which was with against Diana Yastremska of Ukraine. That was a much anticipated match because Yastremska is on the rise. She's won a couple of WTA titles. She's a very determined young player. She was absolutely gutted, distraught when she lost to Serena Williams in the Australian Open 3rd round. She took the lessons from that match, pulled herself together, and actually won the next tournament she played. So Yastremska was serious business in the opening round. And in that match, obviously, I was commentating, so watched the whole thing, couldn't really miss any of it. And from what I recall, there were some long baseline rallies, the power and the variation they were throwing into it. I was commentating on some matches on the outside court, and I can't remember what the match was that I was commentating on before this one, but the step up in quality, I just felt it immediately. You could see it from the way the players were striking the ball, the pace, the variation, and it looked ready to be a really close match. I think Yastremska took an early lead in the first set, and both of them really competitive. But as the match went on, Yastremska just found that Barty was like a brick wall. She couldn't get her way past her. Barty was slicing. She was staying so consistent, but also hitting hard at the same time. She has a very heavy forehand, which makes her difficult to deal with. And as the match went on, Yastremska was spraying more unforced errors, obviously feeling more uncomfortable. And Barty just managed to frustrate her and win that match 6-4, 6-1. I didn't really see any of her match with Samantha Stosur, but in their only previous meeting at the Miami Open 2 years ago, Stosur had won the encounter, and Barty pretty much thrashed her. She had the opportunity to close that match out more convincingly than she did, but it was still a 6-3, 6-love, even 6-love, 6-3 victory over her fellow Australian. And whatever you think of Stosur's form right now, that's pretty comprehensive. Kiki Bertens in the 4th round, obviously being a seeded player. Barty had a bye in round 1, so the 4th round was her 3rd match. For a 3-set win, even. You can't have a 4-set win, can you, in women's tennis? dearie me. 4-6, 6-3, 6-2, and even though that's a 3-set match, I'd say that's a great win for Barty. Bertens has really stepped things up in recent years. She's in the top 10 for a reason, ranked higher than Barty, so technically that's an upset victory. Bertens had always produced her best results on clay, but last year she was really transfer that to the hard courts. Very consistent player, and strikes a heavy ball, and Barty able to handle that. And really, in the last few rounds, it's Barty's mentality that has really stood out to me, because I've always felt, or in more recent times, that that's the element of her game that's holding her back a bit. She's not necessarily as mentally tough as some of the other top players. She's got all the weapons. She's got the backhand slice. She's got the deep shots. She's got a decent serve as well. She's good on the return. Her doubles expertise means that she's comfortable playing from all areas of the court. She's really a pleasure to watch. If you love tennis, if you like tennis at all, Barty is really enjoyable to watch, because she has just mastered the craft of the sport. But the mentality, the way she handles herself sometimes in the business end of sets and the business end of matches has often let her down. The biggest and most impressive win for her so far, from me, was against Petra Kvitova in the quarterfinals, because I believe, and I'm going to check my facts here, but she's already had 2 heartbreaking losses to Kvitova so far this year. She definitely lost a close 3-setter to her, yes, at the Sydney International in the final. High quality stuff, but Kvitova coming through 1-6, 7-5, 6-6, 1-6, 7-5, 7-6. You can tell that I'm all over the place at the moment. Australian Open, Kvitova, when Barty came out for revenge, just absolutely had a stranglehold on that match. Kvitova was in fierce form at the Australian Open, with that lefty swing and the forehand and the serve biting their marks. Dominated Barty 6-1, 6-4. And then the Miami Open, 3rd time running, Kvitova came out of the blocks looking absolutely blazing. I strongly believe that in terms of physicality and the way shots were executed, I think that Kvitova was the better player for the majority of that first set, but Barty's mentality finally came through in that match. She won the tiebreak 8-6 after looking like she was going to get edged for a long time in that set. Kvitova had the upper hand, and Barty, for her, it was a case of hanging with it, just staying focused, concentrating on what was on her own side of the net, and just producing and consistently staying there until Kvitova gave her an opening, and then she took it. And even more impressively, she dropped the second set and came back to win in 3. So that shows that Barty mentally is in a much better state than she has been in previous times. So that's my main thoughts on Barty. Moving on to Karolina Pliskova, who has had many more years experience than her upcoming opponent. Barty, if you will remember, actually took a break from the sport of tennis after she won Junior Wimbledon when she was 15 years old. She reached 3 Grand Slam finals in doubles when she was 16, 17 years old. So very young, a lot of external pressure, and the mental side, again, she just couldn't quite take that, decided that she wasn't enjoying tennis at that moment in time, took a backseat, left the sport, went and played some cricket, and then came back in 2016. Yes, 2016, which was the same tournament where I saw her play Pliskova in the quarterfinals. That was her first WTA event back. I actually got the first interview with Barty after her comeback, where she talked about why she'd left and why she decided to come back. And I've caught up with her each year, and therefore had a keen interest in how she's progressed, and I've been watching her game develop and her mentality develop and her results build over the years. So yeah, so that's Barty. I don't know how I slipped back into talking about her again. Oh, because they played in Nottingham, of course. But Pliskova has been to many finals, has won several titles, and will be playing for her first Premier Mandatory title. So both of these two players, despite their experience and previous titles, playing for the first Premier Mandatory final today. And the match will be starting soon, so I will rattle through this. Pliskova has dropped 2 sets on the way to the final, and they both came nearer the start of the tournament. Beat Petra Martic 6-3, 6-4 in the first round. Alizé Cornet in 3 sets in her second round, which is technically the third round because she had a first round bye. I commentated on one of Cornet's matches. She's a player, Cornet, who can either really bring out some great firepower and determination and intensity, or can just go to pot. And Pliskova actually lost that first set in a tiebreak, but was able to stay calm and come through 6-7, 6-1, 6-4. Also commentated on a match of Yulia Putintseva's. It was actually when she upset Belinda Bencic, who won Dubai and has been having some great results this year. Pliskova again lost the first set 2-6, but came back to win 2-6, 6-3, 7-5. Marketa Vondrousova, a fellow Czech player, rising teenager. Pliskova played against her in the quarterfinals. I watched a fair bit of that match. Vondrousova took an early lead by, I think, a double break in the second set. No, she had the opportunity for the double break, maybe, and then wasn't able to hold on to it because Pliskova doesn't seem to play the scoreboard necessarily. She seemed very much in the moment and very dialed in the latter stages of this tournament and struck big, got the big serves when she needed them, 6-3, 6-4 to come through that match. And then her first upset, she's the 5th seed and was playing the number 2 seed, Simona Halep, in the semi-finals, 7-5, 6-1. And what's most impressive for me is her concentration and execution throughout the entirety of that match, because it was interrupted by rain a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and they had to wait a long time to actually go out onto court. It's not particularly enjoyable to go out and play in an atmosphere where it should be sunny, but the rain's coming and it's making it a little heavier in the atmosphere. Up against Halep, who she'd played many times before. They've had some really close matches and really pushed each other close. But Pliskova really looked so efficient, especially in that second set. She was able to step up and take advantage in the first set. There was some quality all-court tennis in that set. And then in the final 6-1 set, she just looks like she was ready to get it done. She was racing the rain. And even though there was a rain delay when she led 5-love in that deciding set, she still came out, banged down her serves, smashed, and was able to serve it out. It was just very efficient. She was keeping the point shorter and really looking as imperious as she can on occasions. And with Pliskova, it's just very hard to judge. One match, she can do as she did against Serena Williams at the Australian Open and come back from 5-1 on match point down, hitting astounding angles and with incredible pace. And the next match, she can go down to Naomi Osaka, as she did at the Australian Open, a player who she possesses more experience than and can play as good tennis as, arguably, even though Osaka has been playing some incredible tennis at the slams recently. So Pliskova can go from brilliance to average or hot to cold during a match, or from one match to the next, which makes this quite difficult to predict from her side of the court. She's been in a Grand Slam final. She played against Angelique Kerber in the 2016 US Open final and managed to take a set there. But for Pliskova, there just always seems to be something that stops her going all the way. So many times people have predicted her to win a Grand Slam or to win a big tournament, and she's come that close, but just not managed to go all the way. It's like when she had ample opportunity to beat Simona Halep at the French Open last season. She was, or was it the year before? Who won the French Open last year? It was Halep. Yeah, and she was leading strongly, and then let it slip, and you just never know when the switch is going to go and she's going to go hot or cold. So Pliskova, really, she has all the tools. Her movement's even improved. I was very unimpressed with her movement at one point. She wasn't bending her knees, she wasn't getting down to balls, but she's improved that aspect of her game. She's got the big serve to get her out of trouble. She hits a nice flat shots, and what I really enjoyed about watching that Barty versus Pliskova match in 2016, you could really see the spin and the slickness and the heaviness of Pliskova's shots when you were up close and you were seeing it in the flesh. And both of them capable of producing weapons in their game. Barty, for her, the slice backhand is so helpful in the long rallies, keeps it steady, but she can also open up the course and hit winners with the slice backhand if she wants to. She can do a lot with that particular shot, and her forehand has been opening up the court for her really well this tournament, making the space. Now, we're taking some time, so we're going to move on to the actual prediction and look closely at the head-to-head, if I can find it anywhere. These two have faced off 3 times before, and honestly, from the head-to-head, it's difficult to say who might come through. Pliskova leads it 2-1. She won their first meeting and she won their most recent meeting, and Barty won the meeting in the middle. All of them have come since the year 2016. However, they have been the closest head-to-head, closest clashes even. Can't even think straight. But obviously Pliskova won that clash in Nottingham that I saw in 2016. She won that 2 tie breaks, very close, came down to a few points, and again, Barty at the end not quite able to be there for the business end of the set. In the second meeting, however, Barty came back from a set down and won the final 2 tie breaks to beat Pliskova 4-6, 7-6, 7-6. I'm reciting this from memory because I can't find a decent head-to-head anywhere because Google isn't working properly for me, but I remember this. And I also remember that Pliskova was the winner of their meeting at the US Open last season, 6-4, 6-4. And if I remember correctly, all of their meetings have come in quarterfinals. So we can't take anything from the stage or the point of a tournament these matches were played at because they were all around the same time. We can't really take anything from which player handled the business end of the set well because Pliskova won their first 2 tie breaks, but then Barty won the next 2 tie breaks. And all of their sets have been very close. They've played 4 tie breaks and 3 6-4 sets. And that's it. That's their history. So it makes it quite difficult to predict because, as I've said, Pliskova on these big stages is quite an unpredictable player. And then Barty, does she quite have the mentality yet? That's the big question. From the outset, I wouldn't have been picking either player to win this tournament, so it makes it difficult because there's not a standout name, and it also makes it difficult because I don't have a real instinct of who's going to win this match. Anyone who saw my video previewing and predicting the women's Indian Wells final will know that all the statistics pointed to Angelique Kerber to win the tournament, but from the tennis I'd watched, instinctively, I felt that Bianca Andreescu was going to win, and I went with my instinct and got the correct prediction there, but it's hard for me to really tell right now what my instinct is saying regarding these two. I'm swaying from one to the other. I'm a bit wary of being biased towards Barty due to the fact that I've watched more of her tennis. I think at times definitely this tournament because I was commentating on her that one time. And I've watched Pliskova's last couple of matches, but I've watched more of Barty's tennis in general, which makes it harder to come to a decision. The safe bet would be, I think, to go with Pliskova because she has won WTA titles and she's won premier events, but so has Barty. And it just keeps coming back to my mind that there's always something that stops Pliskova from getting to these big titles. And another thing is that she really peaked against Simona Halep, and I wonder if Pliskova has peaked a little too early in this tournament. Barty, on the other hand, since she came back in 2016, ranked outside the top 600, has really climbed her way back steadily. There have been times when there has been reason to get really excited about her, but other times she's just been under the radar, really, because there have been younger players coming out and making big results, and Barty's has just been a very steady progression, steadily climbing the rankings. She hasn't had a considerable drop back yet. And in terms of the prestige of tournament she's winning as well, it's been steady progress. 2016, she didn't win a WTA event, but let me find it. In 2017, she won her first WTA title in Kuala Lumpur. And in 2018, she won the title in Nottingham and in Zhuhai, which is the WTA finals event for the players that didn't quite manage to make it to the best 8-player field. It's the tournament for basically the runners-up. And Barty came through the group stage and was able to come out on top here. She's also been in Premier Finals, 2017, Wuhan and Birmingham, both Premier Finals played by Barty. Pliskova herself has played WTA Premier Finals even. She won Brisbane to start this year, so she's been able to sustain her form, sustain her level decently throughout the season, I feel. Won Brisbane, made the semi-finals of Australia, has done well in that regard. But I think my instinct's leaning Barty on this one, and it may be something that I live to regret. But let's put it this way. Pliskova, as I said with Kerber, Pliskova is probably the safer option, but I just think that Barty has done so well mentally throughout this tournament that it would be unfair of me not to predict her to win based on how I think she might handle the occasion. There is the possibility that she may be tired from playing both doubles and singles throughout this fortnight. She reached the doubles semi-finals with Victoria Azarenka, but she's used to playing a lot of tennis because she's used to playing both doubles and singles. She's now getting deeper into singles events, and I just wonder whether time on that doubles court might have helped her to get in that extra match practice, to feel more at ease with her surroundings and with the match conditions of the events. I'm going to take what feels like a bit of a risk here, which in Ashleigh Barty, because I feel like I've doubted her a bit on the mental side, and she really proved something, I think, with that win over Kvitova. So Pliskova could pull a great serving day out of the bag and nail this one down, but I am going to go out there and say Ashleigh Barty to win the Miami Open in 3 sets. So I'll be looking back at your comments to see your opinions and who you think will come out on top in this one. I hope you enjoy the match. I will be back to either preview the men's final live or to pre-record it, edit it, and upload it today. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, depends on time. But yeah, that's my prediction for the women's event, which I hadn't decided before I started doing this video. So thank you very much for watching, and if you happen to catch this one late and want to leave a reply, then by all means do so, and leave me your message or your opinion in the comments. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine, and if you do, then that's fantastic, and if I'm wrong, then I'm not alone. So